What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Cervantes Podcast. Happy Asian American Pacific Islander Month. Joining me today to discuss how you can implement good nutrition in your diet, body dysmorphia, and how fitness can improve both your mental and physical health is Fitness Director for Men's Health, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, and Executive Director of Fitness Brand Development for media production company Hearst, Ebenezer Samuel. How are you doing today, Mr. Samuel?
I'm good. I'm also I'm AAPI, by the way. My mom is Chinese and my dad's Indian, so I kind of fit right in with what you're doing here.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. I didn't know that. I was gonna ask you your background, but perfect.
Getting
Um,
ahead of things. Yeah.
my first question for you, how did your fitness journey start and did you play sports growing up?
I feel like everybody kind of played sports growing up, and I was one of the kind of played sports growing up, and that I didn't officially play on, the varsity team for anything. We moved around a lot, so it was kind of hard to kind of find like that one team or get that chance, right? But I think for me, I got into fitness. I always kind of had a love for it, right? My parents started me out pretty young. I think it's like the Asian thing to do. You do gymnastics and then you play the piano, right? So I can play, a ton of stuff on the piano and I used to be able to do cartwheels and backflips. But
Wow.
I wasn't very good when I was younger. And I was one of those kids that took a while. Like I don't think I could do a push up until I was 15 or 16 years old.
Okay.
And I wanted to, right, but I needed to kind of learn and grow into my body. um the way I kind of found my way to fitness was partly because when I was 14, 15 years old, definitely a little bit on the smaller side, and I wanted to get caught up. So I remember being earlier than that, so 13, 14 years old was my freshman year in high school, and I wanted to get caught up. I had already watched like a lot of superhero movies, and so I wanted to look like that, right?
Right.
I wasn't really sure how to go about it, and then a friend of mine, as a freshman, kind of he showed me some stuff because he had like a full gym in his basement. He showed me
Okay.
some very basics, a lot of stuff that was kind of wrong, but also kind of not awful. It was like he's like we're gonna do biceps curls, we're gonna do bench presses. He's like he was like if you want to get toned, then you want to do high reps. If you want to get big, then you want to do low reps. So my solution to that was I remember trying to do this, and I was like, well, I kind of want it all. So when I got to, so I followed his template until I got to college. And when I got to college, my solution was okay, if I kind of want it all, I'm just going to do all the workouts on the same day, right? I'm going to try to get big. So I'm going to do the 4 to 6 reps. I'm going to try to get toned at the same time. So I'm going to do 4 sets there, 15 reps. And I was spending like 4 hours in the gym. But that's
Wow.
kind of how I got my start because I really wanted to, I think, look like a superhero and get caught up, learn how to do a push up, just the very basics. And then the more and more I learned about it, I've kind of fell in love with the science of it. Fell in love with, I think, the fact that the gym to me has always been the one place where like you can't the one place where like however much work you put in, you're gonna get out of it, right? A lot of times in our regular life, it's not true like that. But I love the gym and I love fitness because it really is what you put in, you get out, and there's a very direct correlation between those two things.
Right, that's true. Like you can't BS that. You can
Yeah,
BS a lot of things, but you can't do that. That's very
yeah.
true. And so for about a decade, you worked as a sports and tech columnist for the New York Daily News. You covered the New York Giants, the NFL, the NFL draft, and wrote breaking news stories. In the beginning, did you see yourself leaving sports news and working for such a huge fitness brand and magazine?
I think at some point, because part of the reason I was in sports was because I love fitness, right? Um, so when I covered sports, I was a little bit different. Most of the writers I was working with, they were older white men. That's kind of what your average sports writer is. And they were there, they were lifers. That was going to be what they were doing, right? And they would ask a lot of questions. I remember being in, the Giants locker room, and it was a lot of questions about, Victor Cruz. That was kind of my era when I was covering Victor Cruz, Eli Manning. What did you guys do wrong in the game, right? Very quietly, I was in the locker room for a different reason. I always viewed, you know, superheroes don't really exist, obviously, right? But
Right.
the closest we come to them in society is two planes. One is like the military, those are like the heroes who like, fight for us, right?
Right.
And then the other place where you kind of see a weird glimpse of superheroes to me is these guys who do these amazing, amazing athletic feats. Like Odell Beckham with that great one-handed catch what, 8, 10 years ago now. Michael Jordan flying through the air for like a slam dunk in the slam dunk contest.
Right.
That's kind of another piece of superheroism, right? I was not gonna fight in the military. So I wanted to be an athlete, but I wasn't there. It took me a while to grow into that. The way I viewed it, if I could cover sports and write about sports, that was as close to those guys as I could get. And maybe when I was in the locker room, I could learn a thing or two from them, right? So I was in the locker room and all those other reporters are asking the questions they're supposed to. And I would be asking Victor Cruz, so what's your ab workout like? Um, you know,
Okay.
yeah, ask a lot of guys like, what are your tactics on the bench press, right? And that was what I was into. So I think at some level, I knew I wasn't going to be a sports writer forever. I wasn't sure how that would work out. Um, but I loved fitness. A really interesting story too is long before I had done either of those things, when I was graduating from Syracuse University, um, I graduated with a journalism degree, and
Okay.
there was a point where they had internship options for us, and one of the internship options was actually men's health.
Wow.
I walked into that interview. It was the first, like 2021, 22. And the interviewing is not my strong suit. I sat in that interview and they basically they asked I bombed basically because they asked me at one point they asked me what magazine would you see yourself at? What's your favorite magazine? Who do you really want to work for? And the smart answer is, I want to work for Men's Health, right? Somehow, me being like honest and 21, 22 years old, I responded, I want to work for ESPN the magazine. I think it's the most beautifully designed magazine in the world. The story and the lady afterwards was like, well, then why are you here? I was like, oh, that's not how you're supposed to interview.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah. So it was kind of it's funny how things come full circle. And when I got the opportunity at Men's Health, I thought back to that point, and I remember thinking, I wonder if that internship coordinator, she would love me now.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. No, yeah, because you gotta milk them up. You gotta like make sure you're there for the right reasons. And silly questions like that, it's silly, but it's like it's important because they want to know if you really want it. That's crazy. That I was gonna ask you, how did you get the men's health? So that's a good story. And
Yeah.
since it is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander month, and like you said, you're both of Chinese and Indian descent, I wanted to know if you feel positive Asian representation on screen in the US is improving, and also what was it like growing up with two different but beautiful cultures?
Yeah, the two different cultures thing was actually, in a way, I actually like to say, it was three different cultures, right? Because my mom was Chinese, my dad is Indian, but at the same time, I'm growing up in the United States, so there was a clash of a lot of pieces going on. My parents, I think, were really, really good at they understood how to fuse their two cultures because they were born in Malaysia, and Malaysia is kind of, I like to think of it as kind of the New York City of Asia in terms of, we have a lot of different cultures in New York City,
Right.
and in Malaysia it's kind of a country where they bring together, Chinese, Indian, Thai, a lot of different cultures kind of fuse there. So my parents were really good at that. My mom is I really wish she would open a restaurant, but she's probably too old now. Because the fact that she spent so many years kind of, she was brought up Chinese and she understood that cuisine. And then she had to cook differently for my dad because he really liked curry. So she can make amazing dishes that do not compare to anything you would, I would put them up against anything.
Wow,
Um,
okay. That's saying a lot.
yeah, so they definitely raised me very well, and they taught me kind of a balance between both cultures. It was interesting because of when they came over, right? So they were first generation here, or they came over, so I'm first generation here.
Right.
And I think what especially my mom, for just the way she speaks, it's not flawless English. And to be honest, it's not for my dad either. My dad has, 6, 8 degrees. He's a pastor. He's, super smart, right? But
Wow.
the accent, he has kind of like that Indian accent, right? And so I think for a variety of reasons, we joke around. So I have a brother and a sister, and we like to joke that it's because they didn't want us to know their secrets, but also because I think they wanted us to speak flawless English. And because of that, they they did not speak other languages in front of us, you know.
Um,
Yeah, that's one thing kind of I wish, going back, it would be great to have a mastery of Malay, of, Mandarin, of, Tamil. And I wish they had, but I understood why they didn't because it was hard for them. And I think I kind of I respected when growing up, it's really, really easy, and that's kind of the American culture, because that's why I said three. It's really, really easy, and it was for me to kind of almost you're trying so hard to fit in. You're trying to fit in with that kind of American culture, especially for us. We moved around a lot. We were in Jersey, and then we were in Pennsylvania, which does not have a whole ton of diversity. And so I was trying to fit in with those groups. And I think to a certain extent, for a good many years, I almost tried to bury the Asian side of me because I wanted to fit in, right?
right.
Um, and it wasn't until I want to say maybe like the last 10 years or 15 years that I've been able to kind of look back on that. One, I feel badly. Although I understand kind of the reasons that it was hard. But two, that I've been able to kind of embrace my Asian side a little bit more. Um,
Right. And I feel
which
like
is
a lot of young Asian Americans can relate to that, like being pulled
yeah,
between two different cultures or three, like you said. And it sucks because it always makes me upset because when someone has an accent, it's like, oh, it's not that they're dumb. It just that means
yeah,
they know multiple languages and they're probably, I guess, more intelligent in their language, or they can communicate more in their own language. But as Americans, we tend to be very like small minded, closed minded. Whereas here it's like you only know English, but in other countries you're supposed to know two, three, four, five languages. So I feel like we need to get like them. So that always makes me upset. But I'm sure a lot of first gen Americans can relate to that for sure.
yeah, I think so. I think too, it's interesting from an Asian perspective too, because I think what you're seeing is for a while too, I think Asians came over to this country, and to some extent, Asian culture is very, let's figure out a way to make it work, right? Figure out a way to be successful. Um, and because of that, I think to some extent, more first generation. I think that's the first generation. So maybe like 15, 20 years ago, I think you saw this where Asians weren't necessarily great at building Asian community and speaking out and speaking about their frustration. Um, and I and so I think that was again how I grew up. I wasn't sure how to process that kind of stuff. To me, as I'm experiencing it, I'm like, well, I guess I'm supposed to, um, choose between being like white or black, right? Because I don't see any Asians on TV. And so that's what I was trying to do. I remember I like obviously I was like the headband kid and do rags and all that stuff. It's not because I was trying to fit in and I was trying to find my place. Now I think that's where things get interesting and that's where things are changing. And again, I view everything through a very Marvel lens. One of the coolest stories I've gotten to do in my career in men's health, aside from all the fitness stuff, which I really do love too, is I think 2 years ago when remember Marvel released the movie Shang-Chi, which was a
Yes.
huge movie, right?
Yeah.
Huge Asian moment, right? The first Asian superhero in the MCU. Prior to Shang-Chi, and keep it I'll keep it brief. I'll keep it as tight as I can. But prior to Shang-Chi, the only time you saw the only Asian, so that whole battle, do you pay attention to Marvel or no?
Yeah, I watched it. It was so good. It was so good.
So Avengers Endgame is like the big Marvel film that everybody loves, right?
Right.
Um, I love that movie too. I'm a huge Captain America guy. I think I want to be Captain America. That's like my life goal in the gym. But that great final battle, you have probably like 100 different superheroes on screen. There's exactly one. There's exactly one who's Asian. Um,
Yes.
it's Wong, and he's not even like a lead superhero. He's like Doctor Strange's like sidekick. You know. Um,
Right, right. Oh, I thought you were gonna
yeah.
say the girl with the I thought you were gonna say her.
Mm. Yeah, but is she really Asian? She's an alien, you know. Um,
True, true.
but that is actually a good point though too. But anyway, like I was very interested in Shang-Chi and we pushed to get him on the cover. I did that cover story and I had such a great conversation with Simu Liu. And I think one of the things that struck us both is how similar our experience was because prior to, for most of like the 90s and the 2000s, whatever, whatever you call them, the only Asian, and this is apparently like a running joke throughout Hollywood, that the only time and through among Asians is the only time you saw an Asian was among the Power Rangers. There was always an Asian Power Ranger, right?
Wow.
Um, and so I guess I think Simu. It's been a while since I spoke to him, but he came in. He always viewed himself as like the Yellow Ranger, because that was the but that was the limit of, that was how limited we were in terms of representation. And so there's a lot of work to be done, but I feel like we've come far in that we have an Asian superhero who's kind of playing a big role in the MCU. Um, and I think just in terms of overall visibility, one of the programs I run at Men's Health is designed to basically create diversity among trainers, right? And I consider so we actually just started our latest group of it. It's called Strength and Diversity. We
Okay.
get in 8 to 10 trainers a year. We pay for them to get certified. We partner up with the NSCA to make that happen. We get them a mentor so they have somebody who kind of knows the business, and then we put them on the Men's Health platform. So we're trying to help the diversity period, not just Asians. But I do think we've had a couple Asians come through that program. I take it very seriously. I think things are changing. The fact that I'm in the role I'm in, um, I'm a very kind of out-facing Asian in the fitness industry, and I take that very seriously. So I think we've got a long way to go, but we've come a long way too. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, no, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
awesome that like I'm a big proponent of diversity and inclusion. Like even though I created this spot, like I'm Black and Hispanic, my dad's Jamaican, my mom's
Mhm.
Puerto Rican. So I created this podcast to create a safe space for Black and Latino communities, specifically young voices at first, because I always felt like a lot of times people interview like older people, but I think
Mhm.
sometimes there is some wisdom with the youth as well. But even though that's what I cater to, I do try to include like my
Yeah.
Muslim brothers and sisters, my Asian brothers and sisters, because I think we're all in this together. And I feel like sometimes I think white supremacy has divided us and has been kind of successful at it. So I think it's important for us to be together and support one another. But yeah, I think that's really amazing. And the fact that you have that role and you're taking your platform serious as such a large mainstream magazine brand is very important. And we need more people like you in that room and bringing
Yeah.
more people like you in that space. So that's really important. So
Mhm.
founded in 1986, Men's Health is the world's largest and best-selling men's magazine in the US newsstands with 35 editions in 59 countries. Since 2017, Ebenezer has served as the fitness director, where he oversees all fitness at the Men's Health brand across digital, print, and video, and has written multiple cover stories, like you said. What is the most rewarding part of your job?
I mean, it's all kind of rewarding, right? Like, I'm pretty much doing, I wanted to learn push-ups when I was 14, 15 years old. Couldn't do them. And now I'm kind of helping, some of the content we're doing is helping to teach 13, 14-year-old versions of me and a lot of other people how to do push-ups and how to get fit. Um, I think the two most rewarding things about my job are one, the piece we just talked about with strength and diversity. I think what we've been able to do. I don't what since 6 years, 7 years I've been at Men's Health. In the 6 years we've been at Men's Health, I think we've been able to shift a little bit of the narrative of what it means to be fit and who's allowed to be fit, right? Because I think when I was growing up and reading, and it wasn't just Men's Health, when I was reading all the magazines, all the fitness magazines, Muscle and Fitness,
Okay.
Men's Fitness, they were all very, the guys I saw in there, one, it's like you had to be super ripped and have abs, and two, you were basically like a Calvin Klein model, right? And again, like coming up, and it's interesting because I'm thinking back to my interview with Simu, which was amazing 2 years ago. But he brought up the same thing. It's like, you came up and you thought, well, I can't be an Abercrombie guy because I don't look that way, right? And I can't be in Men's Health because I don't look that way. And I think what we've done, if you flip through the pages of the magazine, I'm super proud. And if you look on our website, look at who we're doing video with. I'm super proud of the fact that it is no longer that way, right? I could guarantee you, any issue you pick up from the last year, you can flip through and you can see somebody you're going to see multiple people of color and somebody who looks, not just like you, but who makes you feel represented. And I think that's a huge step for fitness, because I think a lot of that, a lot of how people perceive fitness does come down to what they see in magazines, what they see in on the fitness shows on TV, and I think we've done a really good job of changing that. So that's the thing I'm probably proudest of. The other thing is just the fact that we've been able to, just help people get fit, right? Like that's kind of the goal of being a trainer. It's not necessarily to, I've trained pro athletes, I've
Right.
trained soccer moms. The pro athletes, and I have conversations with a couple of my trainer friends about this too. The pro athletes, it's nuts. You're taking them from like they're already brilliant and you're cutting like a tenth off their 40 time, right? But they don't need me. The reality is they're great without me. And a couple of them who have asked me to train them, I've told them, I'm like, why? Just keep in mind. I mean, I'll charge you and I'll give you a great workout, but you don't need me. Um, but what we've been able to do in terms of general population, kind of educating people in fitness and helping people get started, that is the most rewarding thing because those are the people who need it the most.
Right. Fitness is a lifestyle, and it's important to have that and to take care of your body. And there's no one way to be fit. You could be the bodybuilder, you could be more lean, you could be kind of in the middle. Like we all have different body types. So that's good that you can pick up an issue of men's health, and it's not just one type of person. It's many different body types across the male spectrum. So that's important for people to see. Representation is everything. And when you said that, it made me go back to the Hollywood conversation. I think Hollywood and just society thinks that only one type of people can sell a product and can sell a movie, and it's not true. Because going back, like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, that did very well. Black Panther did very well. Crazy Rich Asians did very well. So it's like people of color do sell overseas. We are marketable. People love us all around the world, not just in America. So because of people like you in the positions that you are in and the great content that we're getting from people of color, I hope that kind of like rings a bell in certain executives' ears, like, hey, like diversity actually it's good business, because we support our own. Like we're the biggest buyers of hair products and beauty care and this and that. Like we go out movie theaters. I think it's like Latinos go out in droves to the movies to watch movies. So I think Hollywood needs to get with the program, because not only is it the right thing to do, I think there's a lot of money to be made if people were more inclusive.
I think yeah, I think the challenge in the entertainment industry is that entertainment executives are not very gutsy, right? They don't like taking risks, and so they always want proof of concept that something can work. And until they have proof of concept, they don't want to. Somebody has to be the first to make the Asian film, or to be willing to put like an Asian trainer in the role that I'm in, right? Um, and Hollywood execs are like, or entertainment execs are like, well, I don't want to be the first because it may not work and I may lose my job. Um, and that's the problem. So what we have to do, I think, and what you're seeing is with social media and just with more and more minority creators, we're being our own proof of concept, right? Because even look at Aquafina was before she had what was that show she had? I can't even remember it. But before she was like a big star, she was doing kind of her own thing, and so she became her own proof of concept. So I think we all have to kind of keep plugging, and then things will change. Even Shang-Chi, right? Even Simu Liu, right? He was campaigning for the Marvel role and picking up traction and landing out in web stories because of it before he got it. And I think that's what we have to do, just keep attacking.
Right. And when one of us gets into the room, we have to leave
Yeah.
the door open for other people to come in. We can't just like, oh, I got here. I don't want to lift anyone else up, because
Yeah.
I don't want to be the only person in the room. I don't want to be
Yeah.
the only person that looks like me in the room. I don't think that helps us. I think it's important to, mentorship and give advice and help where you can, and, leave the door open. So you recently had the chance to interview and work out with fitness icon and actor Arnold Schwarzenegger for the Men's Health July-August issue. What was that experience like?
Amazing. I think everybody on the planet. It's interesting. We do a series at Men's Health called Chain Leg, and what we do is we basically get celebrities in for that series. They take us through a workout, and near the end of every single Chain Leg video, we ask them, "Who's your dream workout person?" And 95% of the people on there don't do check the math on that, but a lot of them almost always say Arnold would be my dream workout partner. Um, and I got to do that, right? I got to train with him. Um, and it was kind of, he was a big inspiration for me when I talk about, superheroes and action heroes and how I really, what got me into kind of creating that look for myself and working towards that look. Arnold was one of those guys. Terminator 2 was the first movie I ever saw in the movie theater. Commando, like all of those movies where he was amazingly jacked, kind of made me want to do it. So to get to train with that man um was something special, and something that beyond like just my job or anything like that. It was just something like part of me wanted to just fanboy out with that and enjoy it a little bit more, because it's not the kind of thing everybody gets to do. It was interesting because it was, he's 75 years old, which is mind blowing when you think about it, because the guy, and this is all kind of in our cover story for Men's Health on it. The guy rides his bike to Golds in Venice in California almost every single day and gets in a workout. And if he can do it, we all should be able to do it. And I think what stood out to me is the fact that he is 75 years old. His body has changed. He's not as strong as he once was. He doesn't, he doesn't look like the Terminator anymore, but he still gets it done, because it's about so much more than the visual. And I definitely came up again. We talk about superheroes, we talk about Terminator, and I wanted to look the part. But watching him, it was kind of a reminder that, when I'm 74, 75 years old, I still need to kind of get after it. I don't need to bench 600 pounds, but I need to keep moving. And I think that's just watching him work out and kind of be relentless about it, but at the same time know how to not be an idiot and try to, like put the pin on the bottom of the machine and do all the weight. That was inspirational, and it's also kind of what I hope when I get to that point I'll be able to replicate.
Yeah, it's about the long game. Like it's a marathon, and you want to be able, people always say you want to be able to like run with your grandkids,
Yeah.
and you want to be active and stuff. So that's important. And it is I'm pretty impressed by people like him, The Rock, a lot of people that like look great. And some people might say like, they're rich, they have nutritionists and doctors, but it's also just like, while that is true, it is still like cool to see. And I hope that like, you know, even if I'm not rich, I hope that I can still take care of myself, still be healthy for as long as I can, because like you said, it's not about the aesthetics. Like that's nice too. You want to look good and for Instagram or whatever for yourself, but it is about like how you feel. And like for a lot of people, and maybe you too, you can say, is it like your therapy too, like going to the gym and working out?
Oh, definitely, definitely. If I don't, it's funny because I don't think of it as my therapy, but when I don't make it there, I realize how much it is my therapy. It's an interesting moment because, and I think people handle their workouts very differently in terms of why they're going, what their mindset is. But for me, I need to work very I'm still trying to look like a superhero. My whole goal in life is to look like Captain America, and maybe sneak into a Marvel movie one day. And I lived it with
That would
Arnold,
be
so you never know
awesome.
what could happen. I lived
Shang-Chi
it with
too.
Arnold.
Shang-Chi
Yeah, exactly.
too.
I lived it with Arnold too, so you never know what might happen, right? But so I'm still trying to train hard, right? I've got, and I want to be strong, and also I want to represent both Men's Health well and represent Asians, in that audience. So I'm working very, very hard to be aesthetic and be strong, and be all the things, right? Which is a lot. And so I train very hard. Now that means like I can't go into a workout And I mean, I can, and it happens sometimes, but I can't go into a workout and not be mentally focused, right? Because in order, progressive overload is one of the big scientific things in, to get the goals I want, I have to push my body as far as I possibly can, right? And that means that I have to be willing, I have to be mentally engaged in my workout enough to add another 5 pounds to the bench when my mind is telling me, I don't really want to do that, right? And I have to be able to shut that off and say, no, we're going to add 5 pounds. I have to be able to push for a sixth rep when I was really tired of four, you know?
Right.
And in order to do that, I need to be super focused on my workout. And I can't go in thinking about like all the stresses of the day or the stresses to come. And I have to be completely engaged in my workout. And it's weird because so I'm not using my workout to process anything that happened in my day, right? But I get to make and this is a decision. I get to make the decision to say everything that happened in the day or everything that's going to happen, none of that matters for the next hour and a half. I choose to let these reps be the only things that I'm focused on, and I make that decision, and in that moment I'm kind of the master of my brain and all the ways my brain can get out of control. And if I can do that, 5 6 days a week, if I'm able to pull that off, and I'm not always, right, but the times I'm able to pull that off, I think it's really really good for my mindset and to show myself that I'm the one in control, right?
Right.
So yeah, so in that way it kind of is my therapy. I just try
That,
to,
that's
I
an
can't
interesting
think of
to
it. Yeah.
that's an interesting way to put it. I never heard someone put it like that, but it's true. Working out forces you to be present, especially if you have goals that you're trying to reach and you're trying to push yourself that particular day. It really forces you to be present. Like you can't worry about what happened at work, your relationship, bills. Like you really have to just focus on this workout. So I guess for some people, I guess for me, like I'll speak for myself. Like, if I can get through a workout, I'll feel good about that. Like, oh, okay, like I challenged myself today. I got out the bed. I wasn't lazy. I finished this workout. And then for some people, I guess they're so stressed so that all that I guess maybe they can think is that workout. And then maybe it's like what you said. So for some people, it's therapy, but some people it's like they don't look at it as therapy. It's more so like a part of their lifestyle, but then it's like when they don't do it, it's like, oh wait, something doesn't feel right. So in a way, it's like not therapy, but I kind of get what you're saying. Like it's beneficial in a way. Like they need it, not like an
Yeah,
addiction, but yeah.
it's interesting because I think for everybody, and I highly encourage, like a lot of the people who are close to me in my life who don't work out, I've always kind of encouraged them to give it a try and to kind of commit to it because it'll be really, really hard, and they'll hate me and they'll hate themselves for about, a week. But eventually this cool thing happens if you work out long enough. And that's basically you're challenging yourself. Every time you go into the gym, you're giving yourself a challenge and you have to overcome it, right? And that's in the gym, it's a really really controlled situation where that happens. I choose to challenge myself. I choose to put 225 on the bar and bench press it. Nobody's telling me I have to. I get to make that decision, right? And sometimes I'm going to fail because failure happens, but a lot of times I'm going to succeed, and the biggest thing is I'm going to exceed what I thought I was capable of. I'm going to do more than what I thought I was capable of. And I've always believed that that translates to real life because if I can walk into a gym and I can throw 300 pounds on a bar and I can deadlift it, and I didn't think I could do that going in, well, I've given, and that's happening over and over and over the course of weeks and months and years in the gym, right? I have all this reinforcement that I can do a whole ton of things that I might not have thought I could accomplish, right? And it that happens in a very gym context, but I can carry that experience when I'm in a meeting and I'm not really sure if I can speak or if I know how to articulate myself well, or if I'm in a situation like if I'm filming a video that I've never filmed before, or my first time like on the live stage, I always go back to the fact that well, I was able to figure out how to bench press X amount of weight that I did not think I was capable of. So if I can do that, because the reality is if I drop the bar, I'm probably that's not a good situation, right? So if I can do that, I can figure out how to survive on stage or how to survive in any situation. And so I think it's a really, really good place where if we can learn to challenge ourselves, we can realize we can be successful when we challenge ourselves, and that's going to allow us to handle the challenges of life.
Yes, it's a really big confidence booster, and even for people listening, like I think my audience is like 18 to like 25. So if you can accomplish that workout, you can write that paper, you can graduate, you can, try to figure things out with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Like it applies to almost anything. So I think that's a great way to look at it. And we have to change, speaking to myself again, we have to change the way we look at working out. Like it's not a punishment, it's not a bad thing. Like this is something that's good for you. Is this something that or same thing I heard someone say, same thing with like a diet. Don't think of it as things you can't eat. Think of it as things that you're gonna implement into your diet.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it that way, changing that mindset, it's better. It's more positive.
Yeah, diet culture is awful, but everybody can eat smart, right? And
Right.
that's all we should be thinking. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's another podcast experience. Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's true. So now we've all heard the term gym rat, but
Mm,
is there ever a point where one can get a gym addiction? Muscle dys
mm,
muscle dysmorphia is a psychological disorder characterized by the preoccupation with the idea that one's body is not lean and muscular. In an ABC News special, actor Justin Baldoni and Rumble co-founder and fitness trainer Noah Neiman spoke about this issue of working out all the time and still not being satisfied with how they look. Have you ever dealt with muscle/body dysmorphia? And what advice would you give to someone currently struggling with this?
I think almost everybody has, especially in this age of social media. It's hard to not post a photo of yourself, whether you're shirtless or not, and then scroll down and compare yourself to the jacked person who was photoshopped in like a Marvel movie, right? Um, So I think everybody's had moments of it. I've definitely had a lot of moments of it. It's hard, it's especially because I do a lot of video.
Right.
So when I'm on video for Men's Health, every so often I'm like, I wish the lighting was a little bit better. I wish my abs were a little tighter for this one. I hate that angle they shot me at. And I think you're always going to deal with it, and we're all dealing with it on some level. Obviously it's more dangerous for certain people. I can imagine in document I think when you're diagnosed, right? um when it's leading you to certain places, if you're hopping on steroids or taking testosterone purely for that, um that's when it becomes a problem, right? If you're not training, when you stop training and eating smart because you're trying so hard to reach those that fitness goal that may never come, that's where it gets hard. I'll give people three salient tips that hopefully can help them. And again, I think this is really, really hard, and so everybody's got to deal with it in their own way. But I think a couple of things can help. The first is, a lot of times it can help to kind of objectively take a look at yourself, right? It's crazy. I look at pictures of myself when I was like 19 or 20, and I didn't think I was very jacked, right? I didn't think I was kind of where I needed to be. And I look at them and I'm like, I wish I'd been a lot more comfortable with myself at that time because I looked like awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so sometimes it's good to, you know, you're gonna take pictures of yourself at some point, but like check your camera roll and see where you were 10 years ago, and see where you are now, right? Because 9 times out of 10, you're probably doing okay 10 years ago, or you've probably made a lot of progress if you've been consistent with your training. So don't be afraid of your own camera roll. The second thing is, and this is really hard for people to understand, this is where people go overboard. Because again, I've had those feelings, right? Where I think like, I'm not big enough for something like that. And I try to, again, I'm going into the gym, I'm working very, very hard to solve those problems, right? With my training. Um, and that's fine. I can go into the gym and let aesthetics be my motivation. Where it gets bad is where people cease to train smartly, right? And so I think, where they're going in and they're doing, 3 hours of cardio because they're trying to get their body fat down 4%, or they're trying to pick up weights that are way too heavy and hurting their shoulders because they want to get jacked so badly in the next like 3 weeks, right? I think
Right.
yeah, and I think or they're changing their diets, right? And I think the solution, or one thing everybody's got to do, is and it's really hard to do, is do your best to trust the science, right? Trust the workouts that, find yourself a trainer and trust the workouts they're giving you, and don't do extra, right? Because the problem, a lot of the muscle dysmorphia problem happens when people try to do extra, whether that's, taking too much, eating too much food, taking too many supplements, training too hard, right? Don't try to do extra. Get yourself with an expert, whether that's a dietitian, a nutritionist, a trainer. Explain exactly what you want. Do your research so that you can make sure that person knows what the heck they're talking about. But when you find that person, place your trust in that person because you're paying them, right? And because they kind of know what they're doing, and don't do extra, just stick to the plan. Like, trust the process. It worked for, I guess it didn't work for the 76ers and Joel Embiid, but that's a different conversation. But just trust the process, because you're going to put a good process in place.
No, that's great advice. That's great advice. Your trainer hopefully has a certification, hopefully went to school, like, like you are educated on this. So yeah, trust them, and don't compare yourself. Comparison is a thief of joy. And for people do it on Instagram, sometimes I do it in real life. Like I'll go to the gym like with a friend who like works out, and I'm like, wow, like everyone's like so much bigger. Like let me just sit down. But it's like, no, like I'm I can't compare my what's that thing, like I can't compare my first chapter to their chapter 36, So focus on me. It's kind of like fitness is almost kind of like track. You got to like stay in your
Yeah.
own lane, focus on you, and it's a marathon,
Yeah.
and try not to compare yourself. And it sucks because people who like are jacked, who are brolic, they don't see themselves as that.
Yeah.
They still feel small, and that's really sad. It's sad, and it's also kind of interesting. It's like, wow, you don't see yourself the way other people see you, and that's
Well,
really interesting.
yes, I've experienced that too, right? And it's a lot is because, well, I see myself every single day, so I can't see the millimeter of size I may put on my biceps because it's been growing for a while, so you don't realize that. So again, that's why I think the camera roll helps a lot. Being willing to look at yourself a couple years ago, and one, realize what a badass you probably were, and two, realize how far you've come. The last thing I'll say too on that is just stay. I try to limit my social media time, and I think when you stare at, the algorithm serves up a lot of things that can mess with your mind. And so if you kind of limit your social media time, I work really, really hard when I'm not posting, and when I don't have to be on social media, to try to live in real life. And I think the more we can stay off of social, or at least, like if your social is not making you feel good, then, or if it's making you feel bad, that's probably the better way to put it. If your social is making you feel bad about yourself, then it might be time to unfollow some of those people, or just rethink what you're doing. Not that those people are bad, they just don't work for your psyche.
Right. I was just about to say that. Maybe you need to unfollow certain people. Maybe you need to put the phone down more, go outside, you touch some grass, like definitely agree with that. And hang out with your friends, like
Yeah.
read, pray, go, yeah, definitely. I agree. So your current training regimen includes weight training, hit conditioning, and yoga. Which type of workouts should new gym goers try first? And are you still taking clients asking for a friend?
I do take clients on a pretty select basis. Because again, obviously I spend a lot of time at Men's Health, but I'll do a couple virtual clients. I have a couple of people who come out to my garage gym and train, and I work with a couple of people where I'm just programming for them on a month-to-month basis. So I do. Hit me up on Instagram. In terms, I will give everybody my biggest pro tip in terms of where to start if you're brand new in fitness. And there are multiple reasons for this, and there's a lot of science to it too. I would really, really encourage everybody to start with kind of basic strength training and weight training. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to pick up like the biggest weights in the gym, right? But strength training and weight training done in the ways that you can do it at weights that you can handle. We all need to build muscle, and we can all stand to build muscle. And this goes for, both right now, because being strong is a very, very good thing. When you have to, it doesn't happen in New York, but growing up in Pennsylvania, it happened a lot. I had to push my car out when it's out of like a ditch when it snowed. Um,
I
being
bet.
strong is being strong is great for stuff like that, carrying groceries, and we all need a reservoir of fundamental strength. You're going to build that when you start with strength training, as opposed to HIIT or yoga or something like that. The other thing though, and the thing I'm very big in, we were talking about Arnold in the long game, right? And the long game is the real reason to build muscle, because once you turn 40, something called sarcopenia starts to kind of eat into you, especially for males. And basically what's happening is, if you haven't built a reservoir of muscle, and if you're not training, if you're not doing anything, essentially like you're losing muscle each year, right? If you don't have muscle, and if you, and that's diminishing every single year, right? And so that's affecting your strength, it's affecting the health of your bones, it's affecting a lot of things, right? It's going to affect how well you metabolize fat, among other things. So you want to have this great reservoir of strength, one, going into your 40s, and two, after 40. Yes, you can still build muscle after 40. If you look at Don Saladino, really good trainer friend of mine, he's like 47, and he looks like a superhero.
Um,
Because you can be jacked after 40, but you want to not be fighting that uphill battle and realize you've got to try to build some muscle when you're 43. You want to build muscle when you're 23, so you have it when you're 43.
I gotta start now. I can't wait. Yeah, that's
uh
true.
pick, pick
That's
up a
true.
copy of Men's Health, we got you covered.
Also, you heard him, guys. You heard him. And of course, we can't have fitness without good nutrition and sleep. So, what do you eat in a day, and how many hours do you recommend people should sleep at night?
It's interesting because I'll tackle the sleep thing first, just because that's come up. A really good friend of mine, Michael Easter, wrote the book The Comfort Crisis. Had some really good sleep data, or really good sleep story, a couple weeks ago. And basically, sometimes we get caught up in how many hours we're supposed to sleep, and hitting all these marks with our sleep, keeping the lights off, making sure it's silent, not waking up in the middle of the night. And that almost gets us anxious about our sleep, and then we're overthinking it, right? So I almost won't. So I'm gonna pass on giving you a number of how many hours. I also don't. I am a really bad sleeper. I sleep probably like 4.5 to 5 hours a night. It kind of works for me, and I've done that my whole life. Um, I think what you want to try to do is whatever, and there's conflicting research out there, but I think what you want to do is whatever pattern you can find for yourself, whether that's from going to bed at 12 and waking up at 6, going to bed at 1 and waking up at 9, whatever it is, try to stick to that pattern and be as consistent as possible, because your body will appreciate that consistency, even if it is, in my case, 4 hours. I'm running on 4 hours sleep right now. I feel like I'm pretty coherent. I mean, I'll leave that to you to decide, but it works for me, right? So I think be consistent with your sleep, as consistent as you can be, but also give yourself grace if you want to stay out till 2 a.m. on a Friday night. Um, yeah, so that's the sleep piece. The diet piece, I can tell you what I do, but again, it's like obviously everybody's got to find their own way. I eat all the time. Again, I'm still trying to be like the Incredible Hulk. So I eat all the time. I'm very big into protein. Every single meal, I want to have like 25 to 30 grams of protein. I want to have some sort of water. I've got a bottle of water sitting here with me right now. Um, and then I'm gonna have kind of a carb. I'm Asian, so it's 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be rice. I'll have a vegetable, and that's a meal for me. And I'll eat that probably like 6 to 8 times a day. That'll get me to my 180 to 200 grams of protein. The big thing I learned, and it's interesting because this was a little bit about embracing my culture too, right? The big thing I learned or realized probably like my second year in college as a sophomore, is that I don't need to eat I don't need to think of breakfast the way it may show up on the TV ads, right? So breakfast in the TV ad is, it's milk, cereal, eggs, waffles, right? And that doesn't need to be me. So I don't really categorize meals as breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I just think meal one, meal two, meal three. Um, and I'm gonna eat again to fill those slots that I mentioned. So very often what it is it's my mom makes really awesome potato or sardine curry for me. I'll put that with rice. I'll add a piece of salmon, like 4 to 6 ounces of salmon. That winds up covering me pretty well. And then I have a bottle of water, and I have a vegetable and I'm good. So I'll eat that literally from the morning. I'll repeat the same meal because I don't like to make choices. So I'll eat that from the morning until the night, just over and over and over.
Wow. Okay. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple
Mhm.
repetition. No,
Yeah.
yeah, I read somewhere like that we're not supposed to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. Like we're supposed to eat more like eat when you're hungry kind of thing. I
Yeah.
read that somewhere. So yeah, it all depends on how you want to do it. And you may have to, I'm thinking about seeing like a nutritionist because I'm always like I don't know like how I should be eating. And I also need to learn how to cook. That's another conversation. Because I
Yeah.
think that would probably help too with like ordering
Yeah.
out and Uber Eats. So yeah, for
Yeah, but I think the great thing is that you're arming yourself because again, you go back to our by dysmorphia conversation, and you're arming yourself with data, right? So trust the data and trust what the nutritionist says, because then if you ever have that moment where you're like, I'm not jacked enough, maybe I should change my diet. You know that no, I was told this, so if I stick to the plan, I'll be okay.
I'll be
Yeah.
right. Exactly. Listen to the professionals. So, the Centers for Disease Culture and Prevention said that permanently improving your eating habits requires a thoughtful approach in which you reflect, replace, and reinforce. Would you agree? How do you think a person can implement healthier eating habits and have a good nutritional diet if they don't already have one?
It's really really hard, but I think it is what it's reflectory, and can you run that through me, run that one
They
more time?
said the CDC said it's important to reflect, replace, and reinforce.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, developing good nutritional habits is hard, right? The biggest thing I think for people is don't try to do it all at once, right? You're not gonna go from eating whatever you're eating tomorrow or whatever you eat today to eating just like me tomorrow. You have to give yourself time, you have to give yourself grace, and you also have to give yourself a chance to build the habit. And it's multiple habits, right? And so the way I like to work with people when it comes to nutrition, and this is also reflected in a product that we actually put out at Men's Health very recently, Weight Loss After 40, which I was kind of working behind the scenes on. Um, I like to think of it as kind of a step-by-step process, and let's master and own each piece of that process one thing at a time. So, we all know it's interesting because food is really simple, right? It's really everything your mom told you to do 25 years ago. Drink more water, stop eating candy so much, eat your vegetables, eat your protein, right? Your
That's
mom
true.
told you how to do it, right? Don't eat a box of Oreos, right? And then somehow we kind of get off track with it. Um, and again, it's slightly different for everybody. But the thing I like to do is we can't get to that point that our mom wanted us at immediately. So let's do it step by step. Okay. So what I do with people is, and it's different for each person, but we might start with, okay, let's work on drinking more water. Okay. Let's get ourselves up to the point where we're drinking 1 liter of water a day. Okay. And everything else you may be completely messing up, but let's get that part down and let's own that part. And it may take us 3 weeks, it may take us a month. But once you own that part and once you kind of can make it, you've kind of figured out how it works with your lifestyle. You figured out your why you're going to do this. You figured out how to just ditch the soda. Then we're good with that step. Okay. And then we're going to move on to something else. Now we're going to get, say, 3 ounces of vegetables in every single meal, right? And then we'll work at that for 3 weeks. You've already got the water part down. Now we're gonna layer on something else, and then we may go to, now we're gonna make sure to get 25 grams of protein in each meal, right? Because then you're learning it, you can own it, and I think that step by step process, it may take a year to lose the weight, or it may
Right.
take a year to build the size that you want. But when you get there, because you did it step by step and because you owned each piece, and at some point you made the decision to choose to own each piece, you're going to be able to stick to it for the rest of your life because we didn't just put you on a diet. We didn't just, give you like a paleo plan or something like that, but we gave you habits that you built and you've built them in for yourself. So it takes time, but that's how I would approach it.
Exactly. Slow and steady wins the race, and just implement small habits that you can master, and then keep building off of that. Like working out, starting off small with the workouts, and then building and keep challenging yourself after that. That's really good advice. So now we're gonna move on to some rapid fire questions, fitness edition.
Yeah.
So the first question: cardio or weights?
Weights. We just talked about that.
Group classes or solo workouts?
Whatever works for you. I'm a solo workout person though.
Okay. Lunges or squats?
Lunges. Lunges, so much more athletic, really, really underrated. Squats are overrated. We actually have videos on that in Men's Health.
Oh, I gotta check that out. Arm day or leg day?
Leg day is more important, but arm day is so much more fun.
Okay. Outdoor run or treadmill?
Neither if I can afford to do neither, but if I have to, it's going to be an outdoor run.
Outdoor run. Workout in the day or night?
Whenever you can, the night is the best time for me.
Workout at home or at the gym?
During the NBA playoffs, it's a lot more at home.
Okay.
When it's not the playoffs, it's at the gym.
Okay. Push-ups or sit-ups?
Push-ups. You're going to
Push-ups.
train your abs with push-ups too. Yeah.
Okay. Pull-ups or burpees?
Pull-ups. Burpees are another exercise we've called overrated at Men's Health. Pull-ups are a lot more useful for you, and everybody needs a strong back.
Okay. Favorite protein shake flavor?
Chocolate, reliable.
And you kind of already met your goat, but I was gonna say your dream workout buddy.
Well, I'll put it out there into the world because then you never know, right? It might happen. Yeah, the only other one I would want to do, I met my goat, but the goat number two would probably be Michael Jordan. So,
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, if we can get
Fingers
that
crossed for
done,
that.
let's
Yeah.
make it happen. Yeah, get him on the podcast.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah.
It's some for some TCP rapid fire questions. The first question: what makes you laugh the most?
I don't laugh very much to be honest. But probably an episode of The Simpsons. I still watch that, so yeah.
Okay, okay, nice. That's a good one. Three things you're grateful for.
My parents, my family, and honestly, the fact that I get to do the job I do because I love what I do.
Awesome. What would you tell your younger self?
Everything's gonna be okay. Because at times it's gonna seem like it's not gonna work out, but you're gonna get to a good place.
I like that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Replaced by Chat GPT, most likely. Um, in five, I can't. It's hard for me to know exactly, but I know what I would like it to be. I would definitely like to still be at Men's Health. Have grown Men's Health to be that much more diverse. And I'd like to be 15 pounds more muscle. 15 pounds more muscled and guest starring in Shang-Chi 3.
That'll be awesome. You could be like an evil cousin or something. That'll be cool. That'll be
Why do you
cool.
have to make me the evil cousin? Why can't I be like a good guy? I mean,
So you want to be a hero. And I feel like anti-heroes are getting a lot of love though right now. Like Killmonger, Thanos, what's the guy? The Punisher.
yeah, but they all die.
Ah, that's true. But in Marvel, I feel like everybody comes back now.
Very valid point. Yeah, I mean, I'll take what I can get. I will be thug number 6 if it gets me in. I will be guy who gets punched number 42. Okay, just get
No,
me in there.
that'd be iconic. If you're in that'd
Yeah,
be iconic.
yeah.
What would you name this current chapter of your life?
The chapter where I think I kind of figured a few things out.
Okay, nice, nice. And finally, are there any other upcoming projects that you're working on that you wanted to share or promote?
I'd say the biggest thing, like I said, strength and diversity. We want as many if you know any trainer friends, tell them to apply because we're running it very, very aggressively. We want to get trainers of color a platform, right? And all you need to do is apply. We're gonna, we educate you, we set you up with a mentor. Like I said, we teach you exactly, my DMs are full of trainers who are like, how do I get in Men's Health, right? And 9 times out of 10, I don't have time to reply, right? But if you apply for that program and you get selected and you're working through it, we're telling you exactly how to get yourself in Men's Health and Women's Health. So it's a powerful program. That's the biggest thing I want to promote. The other thing is obviously that Arnold cover story. Everybody should make sure to check it out. It is
On stands now, right?
Yeah, it is so it's actually I think it's on newsstands in June,
Okay.
mid-June. Yeah,
Okay.
but it is up online right now. Make sure to check that out, and make sure to check out all of the behind the scenes clips I'm dropping on my Instagram over the next couple weeks.
Nice, nice. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ebenezer, for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I know you're a very busy man, so I really, really appreciate it. Where can everybody follow you?
It would be probably mostly my Instagram. That's at Ebenezer Samuel 23. And then I also I'm a very big piece of the Men's Health and Muscle YouTube channel that we drive at Men's Health. So make sure to check that out as well. That's a lot of educational videos and kind of deep dives into all those things I told you were overrated earlier in the conversation.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so I thought those were good. Oh, never mind. Okay, so I gotta check that out. I gotta check that out. What is the
Yeah.
name of the application, or like what's the app, like what
Um,
people should look to apply for the trainer thing?
Yeah, if you so there are two ways as you can find it. The easiest one is, and it's a little bit of a long handle, but it'll get you all the information you need. On Instagram at Strength in Diversity Initiative. All the good Instagram handles were taken, so we did what we could. Or just Google, if you do a Google search for Men's Health, Strength and Diversity, I'm pretty sure it'll be the first thing to come up. So that can get you should be able to find the application right there.
Awesome. I have somebody in mind, so I'm gonna let them know about it. And
Yeah,
you
I
guys
only
do
have like 10 people in mind.
hopefully, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you guys do a lot of production work for my TV people. Is Men's Health hiring PAs?
That's a question that's above my pay grade, I think.
Oh,
Um, feel like I feel like we're always looking for talent, right?
okay.
So yeah, I would definitely encourage people to again, I joke around about seeing the DMs and never replying to them, but I would definitely encourage people to DM like everybody on the mental staff. If you want to get in, you've got to make a play for it, right? You can't, you can't complete any of the passes you never throw. So, just DM me, DM anybody else on the men's health staff, and that's the best way to know because things change the one thing I've learned in the media industry is things change fast. So even if we're not hiring now, in like 2 weeks, we're gonna need somebody.
Okay. So I'm gonna stay in the DMs. All right. I will do that. Thank you so much. And I want to hear from you guys. So if you're listening to this episode right now on a podcast platform, be sure to leave a rating on Anchor, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you click the notification bell up top or on the bottom, I think now, because of the update. So you're notified whenever I upload a new episode. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.